What's up guys, Kevin Goetz here from Profit, helping you achieve musical success. Today we're talking about the top 5 beginner recording mistakes, things that every amateur trips over for. Either if they're lucky, it's just like their first quick mistakes and they figure it out fast and then they get over it. If you're dumb like I was, you spend years hung up on these problems. The first, and the one that I spent years hung up on, is using bad monitors. I used a $100 pair of Logitech speakers that had like a built-in subwoofer that plugged into my computer's headphone jack, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably fine. No, I could not actually hear most of what I needed to hear. Now, I'm not saying you need a $2,000 pair of monitors. These JBLs, I think, were only $300 each. I think. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And they're fine. I can get the same results from these that I can get from a $1,500 set. For those of you who are especially broke, I'm gonna say something very controversial here. If you get a really good pair of headphones, and you know how to use a reference mix, and you understand EQ theory, and you double check everything in a car, and on your computer speakers, and on your phone, you can actually get away with mixing on headphones, and I will detail this better in another video. But ideally, get some good monitors. Number 2, and I'm sure everybody knows this one by now, but it needs to be said just in case, using old strings. Do not do that. Not only does it just sound bad, I mean, that's really the core of it, is it doesn't sound good. Everything sounds dull, or, you know, it lacks the brightness and punch of new strings, but also, I think this gets overlooked a lot, you get micro-tuning issues with old strings that are constantly not quite as tight as they ought to be because they're dying on you. So everything could be totally in tune, like 100%, you check your tuner, it's good, you're good to go, you play a chord, and one note in the chord is sharp, right? Because when the strings get old, they lose some of their tightness to them, so fretting the strings in the way you normally would causes one to bend a little bit out. And it's a very distinct type of out-of-tune sound, and it should really just be avoided. So, for the love of your tone and your listeners' enjoyment of your music, use new strings every time you record. And if you're wondering, like, how old is too old, like when should I replace my strings, basically just listen. If you pick through a chord unplugged on new strings, it has great sustain, it has great volume, great attack, and when something is older, it just sounds dull. You'll learn to hear it, basically, is what I'm saying. Number 3 is not using reference mixes. This is one that I personally never did. From day one, I was using reference mixes. So, good on me for that, I guess. But so many people need to learn this lesson. Use reference mixes. Find an album that you like, and listen to it a lot. Like, really know it inside and out. Then listen to your recordings. And fight off the urge to kill yourself. Because it's not fun, what you're gonna hear. So usually what'll happen is that on finished, mastered recordings, there's a lot more top end and a lot more bottom end. So there's kind of the mid is down here more. And on an amateur recording that has not been properly mastered, the opposite is true. There's just a spike in the middle, and it sucks. That's where you would insert EQ on the master bus and boost until the hi-hats and the cymbals and the vocals sound airy enough compared to a professional recording. And then you would insert some kind of band at the low end and get your bass evened out. EQ frequency is kind of the most important reason to use reference mixes, but it also just gives you a sense for where things should sit volume-wise and how to sculpt a tone. So just listen to things a lot. You can cheat, you really shouldn't, but if you must, you can import a WAV file from the album that you like and visibly look at it on a frequency analyzer next to your track on a frequency analyzer, and you'll kind of get a better sense for the differences. Do not rely on that because most frequency analyzers are not trustworthy to this extent. Just learn to use your ears. Number 4 is being afraid to EQ. That's one I never understood. So there's this old adage that EQ just ruins things, that using editing the frequencies of your instruments just ruins everything. You should be able to get it right at the source. Well, you know what? That's not going to happen for amateur recorders. Amateur guys who literally just want to put their own music out there do not have the luxury of a $4,000 guitar recording setup and a perfect room and perfect mic technique, and that will get everything flawless from the start. I'm sorry. So what you should do is use EQ. It's not... Most listeners do not have such sensitive ears that they can tell how much you have or have not EQ'd something. And audio engineers in the opposite camp tend to, at this point, make the argument that it's about principle. We should be standing for the integrity of our sound and not compromising things. You know what? No. Do whatever the hell it takes to get a good sound in your damn music. Do not care how you get there. If you're using an amp sim and you need to cut 9 decibels out of 4,000 hertz to get it to sound good, do it. Do what sounds good. There are no rules. There shouldn't be rules, at least, and the people who make the rules need to shut up. Okay, and number 5 is bad acoustic treatment. And this is the hardest one. This is the one that took me the longest to do, and everybody says this, and it's not always manageable. I understand that. You're stuck in a really shitty room with a really low ceiling or something, barren walls. It sucks, okay? When I moved into this house, what I did was I found the largest room, which happens to be a living room-esque area of a finished basement, and I put bookshelves in every corner, and I have furniture everywhere. There's a couch and several like soft, absorbent chairs directly across from where I am, so you can see my monitors are there. The wall there is covered in acoustic foam, so I get no issues with reflection in my room. This is a very good room. It's not too dead, but not too reflective. So there are solutions, especially if you put packed bookshelves in the corners of your room. That can help. If you're in your bedroom, your bed actually is going to help a bit. The hard part is bass traps, because bass traps tend to be way more expensive for what you want, and that's why I say put bookshelves in corners. But for just your standard high and mid reflections, you can get acoustic foam for fairly cheap on Amazon. In fact, I'll link the kind that I'm using in the description. So yeah, what I would do is put some directly across from your monitors, put some on the ceiling over your head. Some say put them behind your monitors. I have actually found that to sound worse for me, and actually introduce problems with it being too dead. So I personally don't do that, but I would mention it just so you know. And for any professional audio engineers watching this, I know I'm leaving things out. I'm trying to go for as minimalistic as possible for the guys who just do not have a lot of money to spare. That's my whole thing if you're not familiar with my channel. So yeah, like soft furniture, packed bookshelves, and then get just like a little bit of acoustic foam. Don't go crazy with it. And you should be able to get just a passable, usable recording room. Alright guys, that was the top 5 beginner recording mistakes, and don't do those things. If you're doing them now, stop it! And I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. I have new videos on music marketing coming out every Wednesday, as well as other music lessons of various types coming out every single day. That includes songwriting, instrumentation, creative mindsets, audio engineering, everything you could possibly need. I aim to make this channel the single destination for anything and everything you will need to achieve success in music.